I haven't finished going through the bullshit that we were presented with at the Mexican Grand Prix. But as is always the case with the circus that is Formula One, we've now moved on to the next bit of drama to entertain everybody with and get the sections buzzing with. So on the BBC Sports website, we've got today published two articles. One here is Felipe Massa's court case that has begun concerning Crashgate, and we've got driver Villars starts legal action against the FIA. So this relates to a presidential election. Ben Sulayem essentially blocking candidates from going against him. That's called a dictatorship. And again, if you look at the way that that's structured, the South American candidate is Bernie Ecclestone's missus. Funny that, isn't it? It's funny how these little circles work. But we'll go into that one in a different video. This one we're going to focus on Crashgate. And we'll focus on what's actually going on and also the way the BBC are going to report it. Remember, Crashgate took place in 2008, 17 years ago. Why did it rear its head again? Well, it reared its head because in the aftermath of Abu Dhabi 2021, Bernie Ecclestone is talking about now removing some of Lewis Hamilton's titles away from him, saying that Hamilton shouldn't have won in 2008. So let's have a read of this anyway. So, the stakes, not Crashgate, cost Massa title, court hears. Now, look at the facade that needs to take place to achieve justice. Now, justice, what is justice as a concept? Making things right. Okay, justice. When something unjust happens, how do we make that right? How do we achieve something that is justice? How do we make it right for the person that's been impacted by the situation? How do we hold to account those that perpetrated the wrongdoing? Okay, that's what the notion of justice is all about. How do we go about doing that? Well, we have in the UK, we have the legal game. Okay, the legal game. Now, the legal game often doesn't achieve justice. Okay, but what the legal game is a big facade played out by people in costumes. Okay, with titles, pretending they've got integrity, and they make a huge amount of money out of it. We have lawyers, okay, supposed legal experts. One is arguing one thing and one is arguing the opposite. Well, if they're experts of law, why are they arguing things that are completely opposed to each other if there's just one law? Oh, that's legal argument. So it's just what's law then? The law is the difference between right and wrong within the context of a given situation. So how do you establish that? Well, what you do, you drill down to the specific circumstances of a given situation, and every situation is unique. So you drill down to the specific circumstances, you evidence that as best possible, and then you make the determination. But we've got to have lawyers that do that and present an argument and create an argument and want huge sums of money for doing so. And they're both legal experts. Well, no, all they are is people who represent you in an argument for a lot of money. And then when you get to court, you have to buy your performer. Okay, you have to buy a barrister, somebody who is going to act your argument for you in the best way to perform your argument. And your barrister will be a man who is a legal expert and will sometimes wear a cape and a wig and be a magnificent performer in the facade. And the facade will be overseen by a judge. Now, what are the qualifications of a judge? Well, a judge is somebody that has done a law degree. Well, you know, degrees are two a penny. Everybody's got a degree these days. Is a law degree any more valuable than anything else? Well, what's the law? Law is the difference between right and wrong within the context of a given situation. Okay, that's not difficult to work out, is it? Isn't it? You don't need to be a brain surgeon to get a law degree. Yeah, quite a lot of us could easily get a law degree. Yeah, not a problem. Okay, so you can get a law degree. You can then work as a lawyer for 5 years, you can be one of these people that choose to represent somebody in the creation of their argument. Yeah, okay, yeah, you can do that. And then you can become a judge. So creating an argument for somebody doesn't mean that you're best placed to judge on that, is it? No. What if you're the sort of person that takes on the argument of somebody that's clearly in the wrong, but you just want to financially benefit from that? Okay, that makes you that type of lawyer, doesn't it? You're not standing for justice. You're not standing for what's the difference between right and wrong within the context of a given situation. You're just making an argument for somebody because it profits you, and you don't care about the impact it has on the other person. You just want to win for your client. Yeah, that's what many lawyers are. At least 50% of them are like that, because clearly, if these arguments happen and are allowed to happen like that, one is right, one is wrong. Well, the person arguing for the person wrong, well, that's half of them are arguing for the person that's in the wrong. So you've been a lawyer for 5 years. Now, are you one that argues for somebody that's right, or are you one that just takes some money because you don't care? And then you become a judge. Well, what kind of lawyer has it that's then become the judge? And the judge then will oversee the argument. The judge will direct the argument by giving directions. And the way that the judge will do it is they will direct you to, right, now I've heard that. Now you need to go away and establish this. And now you need to go away and establish that. And you need to provide the other party with this. And you need to provide the other party with that. All of the time facilitating costs to be racked up, more money to be paid to the lawyers and the legal teams. Okay, and then the judge will bring everybody back together and pretend that each side of the argument has some validity here within this situation. And then they'll go, well, now we must look at the law, everybody. What does the law say about this situation? Well, what does the law say about what went on in 2008? Is there a book that tells you what to do when somebody rigs a Formula One race? They get one of their drivers to crash and use their strategy of how they're going to do this to cheat for the other driver to win. What does the law say about that? Is there a specific law against that? No, there's not. And there's not a specific book of laws detailing every scenario that could ever occur in life, because that would be an infinite book, wouldn't it? No, you've got to apply a set of principles. Okay, yeah, are we all capable of doing that? Yes, yes. So does that make us all legal experts? I wonder. So let's have a look what really happened at Singapore 2008. Well, we should know this by now. Okay, Renault, and again, what's key here in the corrupt construct is what was really going on. Singapore 2008 was the very first night Formula One race done under floodlights. Okay, so that was quite a spectacle of an event, and that would have created probably a bigger global following than just a regular Grand Prix, because it was a first for the sport. The event was sponsored in part by a Dutch bank called ING. I believe they're a Dutch bank. There are reports saying that they were maybe struggling a little bit, but still wanted the publicity of being associated with Formula One to attract people to invest using their banking services. They were also the title sponsor of the Renault team, the team that cheated to win it. Oh, that's marvellous, isn't it? ING, who sponsor the race, are also sponsoring the car that won the race, that's now getting a big global audience, encouraging people in that tax haven over there in Singapore to invest in the successful bank of ING. Can you see what's going on there? Can you see that these billionaire business entities are committing? And again, this notion of, are they doing it? Well, why did Flavio Briatore, the head of Renault, choose to cheat at that particular event? Why did they select Singapore to cheat, to rig a race, to crash one of their drivers on purpose so that the other driver would win it? Could have done it at any other race. Why Singapore? Funny that. Who does that benefit? What was in it for you, Flavio? What deals were done? Or was it just something that Flavio decided he wanted to do and nobody conspired to go, oh, there's benefit for doing that here for any particular motive? Now, your reporter here at the BBC, they're not going to go into that. No, they're not going to explain it to you for that reason. Oh, there's never any reasons for things happening. If you think that things are happening for a reason and that people plan things to happen for a certain reason, that makes you a conspiracy theorist, somebody. This is just all random. It was just random that Flavio Briatore made Fittipaldi, was it? Or what's it? Who was it that drove? That crashed? No, PK Junior, wasn't it? Not Fittipaldi. I get confused with all these different sons of or nephews of former Formula One drivers. You know, the little club that can take part in Formula One. It was PK Junior, weren't it? That was made to crash his car so that his teammate would benefit from the deployment of the safety car, because they knew that when a car crashes, teams take that opportunity to go into the pits, do their pit stop, and that's change of tyres. Back then it was refuelling as well, because they would save race time effectively by doing it under a safety car condition rather than under normal racing conditions. But they also knew that they already had pitted Fernando Alonso, and so when the other cars went into the pits, Fernando would stay out on track and actually gain many places because he didn't need to pit at that stage. All part of their little plan. It was revealed that that's what they did. This governing body of the sport, the FIA, they found that out and they kept it quiet. The governing body of the sport, the corrupt governing body, tried to keep that from the world. Now imagine something like the governing body of sport, such as the Olympics. Imagine that at an Olympic Games, an athlete tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs, and what they did, oh, we'll just cover that up and keep it quiet because that will look bad for the image of the sport that we are trying to sell to the world. The sport that we are taking money from sponsors so that they have their brands attached to this sport, okay? So they're getting good publicity from being associated with the positive thing that we are putting out and we are organising and overseeing. But somebody's cheated. Oh, we'll cover that up and we'll keep that quiet because we don't want that to have a negative impact. Oh, that's fraudulent. And that's what the FIA do. The FIA covered that up. That's criminality from the FIA. That's the kind of organisation that they are. Frauds. Not fit to govern. Absolutely not fit to govern. Now, what they subsequently did was they banned Flavio Briatore from Formula One for life. Flavio Briatore is now the team principal again, or is working in some capacity for the Alpine Formula One team. That's your life ban. That you know, if you get a life ban with the FIA, it means nothing, does it? That's the kind of organisation that they are, entirely corrupt. Pat Simmons, who was the involved in it with the Renault team as well, he also got a life ban. He then went on to work for the FIA, and he's now got a role for the Cadillac Formula One team that's going to enter next year. Now, we'll go through the article and we'll have a read of it, and we'll go through what the truth of the situation is. So this one is written by Lorraine McKenna, a BBC sport journalist. Now, let's have a look at the value of what they are writing, because all they're doing is they're just going, oh, there's some information. Can you explain the information? Can you explain the implications of the information? No, you just go, oh, here's some information. That's not really journalism, Lorraine. Okay, but you work under Andrew Benson, so it's hardly surprising. So, former Ferrari driver Felipe Massa performed very poorly, and this is in the speech marks there as a quote. At the Singapore Grand Prix in 2008, the scene of the Crashgate scandal, which cost him the race win and ultimately the Drivers' World Championship, a court has heard. Okay, so she's made the opening statement that the allegation is he performed very poorly at the scene of the crash. So the reality was when this crash situation happened and the safety car was deployed, at the point in time where the teams could then pit, because I believe there was a delay. I think at the time you weren't allowed to go into the pits for the first lap or two until they opened the pit lane. I'm not going to go and spend all the time doing all the accurate research at the moment because it's not that relevant. I'll give you the overview. When they did pit Massa, Ferrari malfunctioned with their system for releasing him. Back then, they did refueling. They attached the refueling rig to Massa's car, putting fueling in it. They'd got a lighting system to release the car. So, obviously, red light for him to stop, and then the green light to tell him to go. The green light went to tell him to go, and that refueling rig was still attached to Massa's car. They hadn't decoupled the refueling rig. So when Massa did go, what it did, it ripped that refueling rig off, and Massa's car went down the pit lane with this big refueling hose attached to the car. Massa came to a standstill towards the end of the pit lane. Ferrari mechanics just did nothing for a few seconds, and eventually they then ran down the pit lane, chased Massa's car. They then reached Massa's car and started to try to wrench this refueling rig off the car. It didn't release immediately. It took a few seconds for them to do so. And by the time they managed to release the rig, Massa had lost so much time that he then, by the time he was able to emerge back onto the track, it had dropped him almost to the back of the field. Okay, again, the exact positions I do not know. As a result of that, Massa seemed to respond very poorly to it, in that it appeared his performance from then on was poor because he'd lost focus. Whether he was lamenting the frustration of the error and how it had impacted his race from being in the lead to now being right at the back. But subsequently, his performance as a driver, from being the car that was the lead car, faster than everything else. So therefore, when he's now competing with the cars lower down in that field, he just wasn't able to get through them. And his car and him as a driver should have been able to do that, but he wasn't. Okay? But just starting this article off with former Ferrari driver Felipe Massa performed very poorly. Well, it wasn't. He was winning the race. Okay, the reality is it was Ferrari's error that caused him to be dropped out of first position all the way down to where he was. Okay, were it not for that error, would he have still been in with an opportunity of winning that race? Well, yes, he would have still been in with the opportunity. He'd still have been able to compete for the win of that race, but it was their error that dropped him so far down, and then subsequently the manner in which he then performed meant that he didn't even get himself into the top 10. So, the Brazilian, 44, is taking legal action over an alleged conspiracy. And again, that's in these little quotation marks, that he says denied him the title, which was won by Lewis Hamilton for McLaren. Now, alleged conspiracy. Again, this term conspiracy is one of these things to get people to think, oh, this is we can't trust this because this is one of those made up things that people believe in, this weird thing, conspiracy. That's the way they weaponize the word. What happened? Well, what happened is Flavio Briatore, the team principal of Renault, and that other guy that I mentioned, also at Renault, Pat Simmons, they got Piquet Jr. to crash his car. Okay, so the team principal gets one of his drivers to crash his car so that the other driver wins the race. Okay, team principal made somebody do something to make somebody else win something. So he conspired. Yeah, they conspired. One person just didn't do something on his own, did he? No, somebody got somebody to do something. That's two different parties conspiring. Yeah, so they conspired an act to help somebody else benefit and win. Yeah, that's called a conspiracy. Yeah, so why are we putting it in these quotation marks, dickhead? Oh, because we need to make people question whether to believe this or not. Yeah. Now, who else may have been in on this conspiracy? Okay, who else? Well, ultimately, who were the beneficiaries? Well, the Renault team. They'd have got prize money from that. Did ING know that Renault were going to cheat? Only Flavio Briatore will know. Did Flavio Briatore or the Renault team receive some sort of bonus from the ING bank for the positive publicity that was gained for them by winning that inaugural night race in Formula One? Were they aware that it was being fraudulently contrived to give them that positive publicity? Only they will know. And obviously they're going to deny it. So whether they were aware of it or whether Flavio Briatore went, I know how to get myself a bit of a bonus here. This is what I'm going to do. But one way or another, Briatore has headed up this plan, involved other people, and they conspired with him to achieve the result that Briatore was going to profit in some way from. So that is conspiring, isn't it? Because it wasn't just him, there were other parties to that. Massa was at the High Court in London on Wednesday for the opening day of a 3-day hearing, where he is seeking about 64 million plus interest from former F1 boss Bernie Ecclestone, Formula One and governing body the FIA. Now, why is he seeking that from Bernie Ecclestone? Why, Felipe Massa, are you going after Bernie Ecclestone? Did Bernie Ecclestone conspire with Flavio Briatore to fix that race? Or was it just Flavio Briatore? You're going to have to prove that Ecclestone, the head of Formula One at the time, the owner of Formula One at the time, the head of the marketing rights, the owner of the marketing rights, should I say, at that time, you're going to have to prove that he had an agreement or conspired with Briatore to benefit Alonso in winning that race for the Renault team. Just having knowledge of the event in the aftermath and seeking to cover it up so not to damage the reputation of Formula One isn't conspiring to fix the result. Okay, what it's doing is conspiring to prevent the reputation of the show being damaged. Okay, but knowledge of it in the aftermath is not conspiring to fix that result. Okay, we can establish this. We don't need to be the High Court judge or a performance lawyer barrister. Okay, presenting the argument, performing the argument to the galleries, everybody. But we can work this out. It's not rocket science, is it? Now, did Ecclestone know what Briatore was doing? Does Ecclestone have any links with these major sponsors that want to utilise the show, market their brand in the show of Formula One so that it benefits them? Why did Bernie Ecclestone buy or have a deal to be the owner of the marketing rights to the show when he did that deal with the FIA all them years ago? Oh, he saw that there was money to be made with the deals to be done. Didn't he, old Bernie? Billionaire Bernie. He worked it out, didn't he? But did Bernie know that that's what Briatore was doing? Or did he find out in the aftermath? Now, did what took place in that race, was that sporting contest, because it was clearly impacted by what took place, by the fact that Alonso, his team cheated, and Alonso then went on to win the event. Alonso still has that trophy, by the way. The FIA, this fraudulent governing body, they've never, even though it's been revealed that Renault cheated, enabling their Renault driver to win that race, the FIA has never taken that title from them. They've never taken the trophy off him. Alonso is still recorded as being the winner of that event. In that year's championship, Alonso still has the points to his name for that race. Now, in a sport, and let's use a comparative sport, okay, where people race against one another. If somebody cheats in that sport, what happens? Okay, let's use this legal precedent. Okay, legally, what happens? Well, we don't need to be legal experts. Let's go back to the 1988 Olympics and the men's 100-meter final. Somebody cheated. There was a guy called Ben Johnson, and when he won the race, he was the fastest you've ever seen. He was a bit like Max Verstappen on legs, and he cheated. He took performance enhancing drugs. He doesn't have the gold medal anymore. Okay, because what the Olympic Committee did, they go, "Oh, you're a cheat. Okay, you've failed the drug test. You're guilty of taking drugs. We ban you from the sport, and we strip you of your title." That title now goes to the first athlete who didn't cheat. Okay, so the winner of the race is the first athlete that crossed the line, that passed the drug test, that didn't fail the drug test in the same way that Ben Johnson did. They didn't cancel the whole event, all right, because that's not what you do. Okay, if you have a sporting event and somebody cheats, you don't go, "Oh, it's all over. The whole thing is now cancelled. Nobody is the winner because one person cheated." No, all you do is you disqualify the cheat, and then you re-hand out the prizes in the correct manner now, having disqualified the cheat. So essentially, the winner of that Singapore Grand Prix in 2008 was Nico Rosberg, who finished second in that race. See, Massa wasn't prevented from competing in that race. None of them drivers were. Okay, to all intents and purposes, that crash may have been authentic. It was treated like it was an authentic crash from Piquet Jr. The procedures that were then enacted by the governing body, the FIA, were in accordance with the rules and regulations of that sport. Nothing was done untoward, unlike Abu Dhabi 2021, when the governing body broke its own rules. And when they broke their own rules, they all forgot what the rules were. And the world's media, before the rules were broken, were suggesting, what are the rules? Are they allowed to break the rules? This was the media before the rules were even broken. This is how corrupt Abu Dhabi was. And the people of the world don't realise that because they've all been mind conditioned by the media. When you've got Martin Brundle saying, "Oh, will they let the lap runners through? I'm not sure it's mandatory, but that's normally on a wet day where they don't. And if they do, how long will they wait?" Because this is how they gaslighted everybody at Abu Dhabi 2021 when the FIA broke the rules of the sport to facilitate Max Verstappen winning that one, depriving Lewis Hamilton at that one. And the simplicity of that is when a safety car is deployed and cars have been lapped, they don't tell you in the media that at that stage, Hamilton, the leader, had passed Lando Norris. Okay, Norris had to pit as part of the tyre narrative due to some sort of slow puncture, apparently, because it's all about tyres and clean air and dirty air and all this like that. So Norris was now a lapped car. He was still trying to achieve his highest position in the World Championship at that stage, prior to pitting with the slow puncture. Norris, I think, was on course to finish 5th in the World Championship that year, his highest position at that time. But in 8th position, he's still trying to challenge for 7th position in that race. And he's less than 12 seconds behind Gasly, but Hamilton hasn't passed Gasly at that stage, hasn't lapped Gasly at that stage. Safety cars deployed for Nicholas Latifi's crash. And obviously the safety car picks up the leader Hamilton. Norris has to wait behind Hamilton. Gasly disappears off around the track and is now at the back of this safety car snake. So 7th place Gasly is at the end of this safety car snake. 8th place Norris, who actually is now 7th because Perez has mysteriously retired because, oh, really? You're making me retire? What's wrong with my car? Yep, we need to retire the car box. That means that we've handed the constructors $177 million to Mercedes as part of the deal. Don't you worry about that one. They don't tell you that in the media either. So now you've got to do this procedure to reinstate sporting fairness to Lando Norris. Okay, he was less than 12 seconds behind Gasly prior to the safety car being deployed. Now you've deployed a safety car to make things safe. Before you resume the sport again, you've got to reinstate sport in fairness to everybody, because essentially what you've done, you have neutralised the race to deal with a safety incident. And prior to resuming that sporting contest, you've got to reset the conditions for everybody. What they did, they go, the 12 seconds that Max was behind Lewis, we'll wipe that out. We'll ignore everybody else and we'll just set them two off for them two to have a one-lap shootout. Oh, it's exciting, everybody. No, that's not sport. But they don't tell you that. The media will tell you, it was confusing and it was a highly complex situation and they were under pressure, but Max absolutely deserved it. That's what the mind conditioning machine has led everybody to believe in this world. And most people don't understand because they'll believe the presented expert. This procedure, they just want to get them out of the way of the race between the leaders. No, they're all racing. And they're all contesting for World Championship points. And they all matter to each of those competitors. And you've then got to carry out this mandatory procedure prior to the resumption of racing. They don't tell you that, do they? For some of you that are new to the channel, that are hearing this for the first time, the penny's going to drop. This is the corrupt governing body. They then employed 4 stewards. Or they might not have employed them, but they would have appointed them. Okay, and then they claim, we've appointed you to make the judicial decisions at this event, but we're not responsible for the decisions that you make. Yeah, you are, because you appointed them. Okay, you are the people that adjudicated them to be competent to make those decisions in accordance with the rules and regulations, and they didn't. You are responsible for them. But we've got our own courts making our own rules and our own decisions, holding ourselves to account. Fuck off, right? This is the FIA. This is how corrupt they are. Okay, start understanding this notion, this bullshit facade of law and the bullshit that is the corruption that is the FIA, and also extrapolate this to how law works in this world. Okay, it is a construct, it's a facade. As soon as it becomes, this is a legal matter, don't you worry your little heads, you won't be able to understand it. That's what the lawyers are going to be arguing about. What do these dickheads know? You're told that you won't be able to understand it. It's complex. That's legal. That gets confusing. It's not confusing. You've just got to establish what's right and what's wrong. And if you've got a cunt arguing for something that's wrong, then that doesn't make them a legal expert. No, that makes them a cunt. Okay? And then if you've got a cunt judge that gives merit to that, oh, yes, we've got to acknowledge the merits of that. Why are you doing that? Why don't you just call them out? No, you're a cunt. Now fuck off. You're putting forward the argument of somebody who's a cunt that's clearly in the wrong. Oh, no, because we've got to ensure the lawyers in our legal club that play our legal game all get their payment. Yeah, it's all a big game for money for these people and manipulation. Just like Lewis Hamilton told you all, this has been manipulated, man. Now, legal is the construct for manipulation to manipulate outcomes for those who can argue it to be a certain way. And it tends to be those with the most amount of money can argue things to get things their way. And this is presented to us as being the system of achieving so-called justice, because the court system in the UK, His Majesty's Courts and Tribunals Service, the Service for Justice, is under the banner of the Ministry of Justice. It's all a facade. All a facade. But don't you worry your little heads, because they're all people of integrity, and they wear the costumes, they wear the wigs, and they wear the capes, and they've got the gowns, and they've got a little a gavel, a little hammer. Order! I give the directions, and they're all people of faux integrity, and they've all got lovely titles. His Honour, the Judge, all the bullshit. Actors. Anyway, let's have a look what Lorraine goes on to say. Massa was at the High Court. We've gone through this, hasn't he? He's seeking 64 million plus interest from Bernie Ecclestone. Why are you seeking it from Bernie, Massa? Why are you not seeking it from Flavio Briatore, the guy that actually cheated? He's the one that cheated. Okay, his actions of cheating in that race, it impacted that race. Okay, what then went on was what unfolded. The way the FIA actually dealt with that situation at that race was in accordance with the way that the FIA should be dealing with that situation. The way everybody responded to that situation was in accordance with the way everybody responds to that. Okay? So that appeared to be, at the time, pretty much authentic in terms of the way the sporting contest should be played out. Now, had that have played out and Ferrari hadn't made the mistake, had that refueling rig been removed and then they released Massa wouldn't have been disadvantaged. Massa would have been released back onto track within that pack and be competitive in that race, and is highly likely would have finished in the points, and that would have been sufficient enough for him to have won the World Championship that year. But that didn't happen. It didn't happen because the way of the error made by that Ferrari team with that release system and the refueling rig not being detached by the time that they released it. That's where your problem is. You can't say, oh, they cheated, causing me to not get any points that race. No, the reason you didn't get any points was because your team made the error. You weren't deprived of competing in that race. They didn't break, the governing body didn't break the rules of that race to deprive you from competing or impact where you were going to finish. The other team skewed the result of that race, but ultimately that race was carried out in an authentic manner. Now, here's the thing as well. You would have a case, Felipe, if you'd have finished in a position whereby your finishing position was a point scoring position, and let's say you lost the World Championship by 1 point. Let's say you finished in a position in that race where you earned points, and by finishing the next position up, you would have got 2 more points. Alonso's the winner of that race. Alonso gets disqualified because his team cheated, elevating everybody a position, giving you 2 more points, Massa. Oh, but Hamilton would have got more points as well, because Hamilton finished third, would have got elevated to second, so he'd have got more points as well. So actually, that bit wouldn't work. But let's play this out, okay? Let's say you would have finished in a position whereby, had they disqualified Alonso, which is what they should have done, and then you'd have got more points, and that extra points you'd have got would have meant you'd have then won the championship. Yeah, you'd have a case. You'd have a case. But that's not the case, is it, Felipe? Because that's not the case. Because even if they had have disqualified Alonso, which is what they should have done, stripped that victory of him and given the points for the point scoring positions to the people that didn't cheat, you still wouldn't have got any points, Felipe, because of the way you drove subsequent to when that situation happened. So this incident happened. Piquet Jr. crashed his car, safety car deployed, all teams pitted. Ferrari made the mistake with Massa. They all went back on track. Safety car comes in. The rest of the race plays out the way it does. Everybody else is competing the way they normally would. No rules were broken, other than the fact that a team has cheated, crashed on purpose. That's a rule break, because you're not allowed to do that. That's fraudulent. Okay, but other than that, the race, the sport is contested as it should be. And the race finishes, people are awarded the points. That's added to your season-long total. And we move on to the next circus. It turns out that it's revealed that Piquet crashed on purpose. So 6 months after he did it, when the team decide to sack him, when the team don't renew his contract, when the team take away the money that they're paying him, Piquet then tells the truth. So it shows you that people are willing to lie. People are willing to perpetrate wrongdoing when they're receiving money for it. But then when that money is taken away, when the deal is taken away from them, they might then tell the truth about what they really did. Yeah, legally, everybody. So, yeah, Piquet Jr. was quite happy to perpetrate something that was wrong. Yeah, people do that. They do things that are wrong. But then when the deal doesn't go right, okay, when they're not getting something out of it that they were promised, then they out the people that are the criminals sometimes, don't they? Yeah. What's the legalities of that? Who is taking action against Piquet Jr. for crashing, fixing an outcome of a race, conspiring to fix an outcome of a race? Yeah, that's cheating. No action taken there. Or is there a legal device absolving him from consequence for that? Do they get a legal device to say that, I'm not allowed to say anything about this? I've signed a non-disclosure order. They've given me some money, so I won't tell anybody what happened there. Oh, that's legal, everybody. Don't you worry, little heads. Oh, it's a tool of manipulation to cover up wrongdoing, isn't it? Oh, it's the law, everybody. Tell us what this judge thinks about it. The expert of the law, the game of manipulation. Don't you worry, little heads, about the law. Don't you worry about that. It's all a tool of manipulation by these bunch of gaslighting fucks that present themselves as having more intelligence than the rest of you, and only the most intelligent of you can see the magnificence of the emperor's new clothes, of the legal system. Anyway, I'm experiencing part of this myself. So far, 6 UK judges, 4 of them grossly incompetent. Sorry, 2 of them grossly incompetent and neglectful. 4 of them criminally corrupt. But that's for the new channel when that comes out. Don't you worry about that yet. Anyway, Massa was leading the race when Renault driver Nelson Piquet Jr. crashed deliberately to trigger a safety car, which helped teammate Fernando Alonso, who went on to win from 15th on the grid. Okay, This was a pre-planned thing. They conspired. Briatore conspired with Piquet Jr. to plan for him to do that at that location on that lap, knowing that Alonso would started on a light fuel load, would come in, and then he'd be back on track. And when the rest all pitted during that safety car window, after things had bunched up, Alonso would pass most of them that have pitted, if not all of them that have pitted. He'd only be behind the ones that didn't pit. And that would give him a much better chance to finish much higher up in that race. Much better publicity for ING. Yeah. And a good chance of the ING sponsored team winning the ING sponsored first night race in Formula One. Cha-ching! Oh, yes, let's invest our money with that successful organisation, everybody. No, that would be a motive. No, there wouldn't be any motive for people to conspire to make that happen, would there? That would just be conspiracy theorists who'd think that they'd be doing it for that reason, wouldn't it? Yeah, don't you worry, little heads. People don't do things like that. They don't do corrupt things to make money for themselves like that. No, that's just a conspiracy theorist. That's just the flat earthers who think that. Yeah, tinfoil hat wearers who think that, yeah. Anyway, Ecclestone's arguer, okay, Ecclestone's paid performer, David Quest, said Massa and Ferrari's mistakes, rather than Piquet's crash, led him to missing out on the title. Because that's the truth of it, really, isn't it? Okay, so Massa's paid arguer says that it's Bernie Ecclestone's fault. Massa, does your paid arguer have the ability to think about this? Because really, if you've got a problem, you want to go after Briatore, because what Briatore did is he conspired, right? He put in place the master plan to cheat at that event. Okay, he cheated, and then the domino effect of what then took place impacted your race because it produced a safety car that otherwise you were in the lead of that race. All right, and then the domino effect was the things that the way that the events unfolded meant that you then finished out of the points. But that's him cheating. That's him cheating. You finishing out the points meant that you then didn't win the World Championship and you might have lost out on future earnings. Sponsorship deals, got less money because you're not a world champion. Okay? So it might have been like bonuses that are attached to your performance with the Ferrari team. You lost out on that. Like him cheating and the fact that then you've pitted because of now this situation being presented where, okay, this is the time where we would pit, might have deprived you of that. Okay? But it's not the FIA that have deprived you of that unless they were in on the cheat. Unless they were part of the conspiracy. But you would have to prove that, Massa. Okay? If the FIA, if race control, which at that time was Charlie Whiting, is dealing with that race, and as that race is unfolding, he's seeing a car crashed. Oh, there's a car crashed. How do I deal with this? Well, it's a danger. I've got to make this safe because I'm the race director in control of safety at this event and ensuring that this event is carried out in accordance with the rules and regulations of the sport. I'm now observing a crash and I've got to deal with this. The way I deal with this is deploying the safety car, which is how you do it. So if there's an organic crash, that's what he'd do. That's what he did. Okay, the teams react as if it's an organic crash. Then Ferrari made the mistake. So the person you go after is Briatore and the Renault team for conspiring that crash and causing that to benefit them. That has caused a sequence of events that's ultimately impacted you. It's not the FIA that have done that. The FIA have overseen that event in accordance with how you would do that, unless the FIA were in on the fixing of that race. But you would have to evidence that. I don't see the evidence for that, and I don't have party to information. From the manner in which Charlie Whiting responded to that event, there is nothing suspicious about that. He didn't do a Michael Massey and break the rules of the sport. Okay? So, You saying that it's Ecclestone's fault, well, is it? What did Ecclestone know? If they didn't know prior to it happening, what you're doing is responding in the aftermath. In the response of the aftermath, what you have is a sporting event which reached a conclusion. It played out in what appeared to be an authentic manner. It is then revealed that somebody cheated, and all you do is you disqualify the cheats. And then you reallocate the finishing positions correctly and you redistribute the points correctly. They didn't do that. The FIA had a responsibility to do that. They didn't do that. What they've done, they've tried to cover it up to protect the image of the show, to protect the value for marketing rights. You see, this is all about money, isn't it? It's nothing to do with integrity. It's to do with money. And that is this corrupt shit show that is Formula One, the shit show that is the governing body, the zero integrity governing body, and the zero integrity billionaire. Okay? He wanted to cover it up. He didn't want the cheating within the sport to be exposed. That's the kind of cunt that Bernie Ecclestone is. That's what they are. Understand that. They don't care about rules and regulations. They don't care about what's right or wrong, but they'll pay somebody to argue for them, won't they? Oh, and somebody will represent them for money. Yes, legal. We'll play legal, everybody. The toy of the billionaire to argue for what they want. And if the more money you've got, the more justice you get. The more justice that you get. Anyway, or the version of justice that you can afford. So, I don't know, your legal team, Massa, have they got evidence to demonstrate that Ecclestone conspired with Briatore to fix Renault winning that event? Because if you've got evidence of that, you might have a chance. If you've got evidence of the FIA conspiring with Briatore and Renault to fix that event for Alonso, then you've got a case. But if Renault were acting just with themselves and conspiring, for example, with their sponsor, ING, well, your case is against Briatore for his actions impacting your life. But ultimately, the way that this would have panned out would have been that had your team not have made a mistake by releasing you with the rig attached, had you then have not mentally imploded, like, because you could have still passed cars on that track, because cars were still passing each other. You didn't really do that much of that, Felipe Massa. You drove poorly. But you could have probably retrieved yourself to a point scoring position, but you didn't. Okay? You didn't. Ultimately, what the FIA should have done is stripped Alonso of that victory and reallocated the points, awarded the race victory to Nico Rosberg. They didn't do that. So again, all it's proving is the FIA are a corrupt organisation that are not fit for purpose. It's proving that Ecclestone is a corrupt individual who wants to cover up fraud, okay, and wrongdoing, because that's what he's doing. Ecclestone is covering up cheating, which is a fraud. Doesn't want to tell the world about cheating and wrongdoing because he wants to protect his monetary interests in the show and knows that they'll be harmed by the exposure of cheating within that sport. So we cover it up. That's the integrity of Ecclestone. But ultimately, that didn't affect your championship finishing position, did it, Massa? So we'll see what your legal team argument is. We'll listen. We'll carry on with what the BBC are presenting about this. So Massa was leading the race when Renault driver Nelson Piquet Jr. crashed deliberately to trigger a safety car, which helped teammate Fernando Alonso, who went on to win from 15th on the grid. Ferrari pitted Massa during the safety car period, but messed up the stop, which dropped him down the field and out of the points. Ecclestone's lawyer, David Quest said Massa and Ferrari's mistake rather than Piquet's crash led to him missing out on the title. Well, yes, it was. Had they not have made that mistake, Massa would have re-emerged onto the track in a similar position. Obviously, Alonso staying out on track meant he leapfrogged a lot of the cars, but all the other cars that were actually competing with Massa at that point in time, they all pitted in accordance with their strategy, and Massa would have re-emerged in a similar position relative to those that he was prior to pitting. And therefore, his race with them in those point scoring position would have been against them. Ferrari's mistake meant he was dropped well behind them. There's your problem. Massa's case rests on an interview Ecclestone gave to F1 Insider in 2023, in which he said that then FIA president Max Mosley knew Piquet's crash was done on purpose, but took no action in attempt to protect the sport and save it from a huge scandal. So at what point in time? Because from what the information that's been revealed in the mind conditioning media, so what the truth of this is, I don't know. I've not seen this interview given by Ecclestone. At what point in time did Max Mosley, this is the guy that used to enjoy these Nazi-themed sex orgies, didn't he? Yeah, that was him. This was the FIA president at the time. Nazi-themed sex orgy, Max Mosley. Yeah, they're into that sort of thing. They love that. But the young female, we can't call her a Nazi. The young female prostitute, I think she was. Yeah, we don't know whether she was a Nazi or not, despite her wearing whatever she was wearing. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about that. Anyway, so Ecclestone has gave an interview which Ecclestone doesn't remember. He doesn't remember, such as the integrity of billionaire Bernie. He's forgotten. Amnesia chick. So Ecclestone gave an interview in 2023, and apparently a dead man, who Max Mosley is, said that he knew Piquet's crash was done on purpose. Did you know beforehand that it was going to be done on purpose? Did you find out? At what point after did you find out? You see, in the Olympic Games, after the event, they found out that Ben Johnston had cheated. He crossed the line first, so he was actually the winner of the event. You know, he'd have actually gone to the medal ceremony and been given the trophy for winning the gold medal. Yeah. Then they find out he's cheating, so they strip that off him. We're taking that back off you. We're giving it to the right person. Yeah, that's how you do it. So if you find out after the event that something wrong has happened, you then disqualify the cheat afterwards. If you know beforehand that something's going to happen, he's cheated and he's going to be, no, you don't let him in the race. Yeah. At what point, Max Mosley, did you know that Renault were going to do that? At what point did you know that Piquet Jr. was going to crash to do that for Alonso to benefit? Now, are you going to discuss this? Is Briatore going to discuss this with Max Mosley before the race to tell him, oh, this is what we're going to do? Did Charlie Whiting, or another dead man, did he know before the race that that's what they were going to do? Oh, we can't ask Charlie. Charlie died of a pulmonary embolism. Do your research, what one of them is, prior to the season opener in 2019. Anyway, don't you worry your little heads about that one either. Don't worry about that one. I don't want to make allegations that may not be true, but, you know, just do your research. Anyway, so these people aren't about anymore. So we can't ask Max Mosley or Charlie Whiting what they knew ahead of Crashgate. No. But what we do know is that in the aftermath, 6 months later, Piquet Jr. revealed to the world that he did it on purpose, and he was told to do it on purpose. Was it before the event or after the event, Ecclestone, that you were made aware of that crash being done on purpose? Was going to be done or was done? Now, if it's after the event, well, you've got an obligation to take the action of disqualifying the Renault team and reallocating the points. Now, even in doing that, it's not going to change the outcome of the World Championship. Massa, you don't really have a case. Your only case really is against Briatore for the fact that he cheated, and ultimately him doing that has skewed an organic race. But that organic race was skewed for everybody. Okay? Everybody had their race impacted by a crash, which is what happens. When in a motor race a crash happens, all of the advantages built up between all the competitors, they're all wiped out because you deploy the safety car and everybody has to stop racing and the field bunches up. That happened for everybody, Felipe. That happened for you. Okay, teams then tried to utilise that to get a cheaper pit stop. Your team tried to do that. They then made the error. That's on them. Okay? Had that have been another team where, for example, one of their wheel nuts got stuck on their car and their driver would have lost time in that pit stop, well, whose fault is that? Oh, well, that's their team for cross-threading a wheel nut, isn't it? That's the way you deal with this. Okay? What you don't do is you go, oh, this is a sporting event as part of a championship. Somebody's cheated, so we cancel the whole event. You don't do that. Everybody else is still racing, trying to win that event. You've got a sporting event that's being carried out. You've got a global audience watching it. And you don't, oh, and this is a money thing as well, isn't it? You don't go, oh, somebody's cheated. The whole event is now cancelled. Everybody, what you've just seen is all cancelled now because somebody's cheated. So what do we all do? Do we all go after Briatore? Do we have a class action against Flavio Briatore for defrauding the global watching audience of the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix of us watching a valid sporting event because he cheated for the benefit of Fernando Alonso and ING, the title sponsors? Do we go after Flavio Briatore for that? Massa, how about you do that? How about a class action lawsuit against Flavio Briatore for defrauding the planet by cheating in a global sporting event? You'd have a better success with that, Felipe, because that's what he did. Okay, but ultimately, the individual impact on you were still in that event. You were still in with a chance of scoring points in that event, and what impacted your chance of securing points in that event was the performance of your team and then your subsequent performance as a driver. That event was still in play. It's still carried out in accordance with the rules, regulations of the sport. People still engaged in a sporting contest, and but for Alonso, everybody else got a valid sporting accomplishment. They conducted that sporting contest in accordance with the rules. They responded to how things unfolded in a manner that you would if it was an authentic crash. You contested that event in the way that you would authentically contest it, and then a result was achieved. All that you do is you disqualify the cheat. That's all you do. Those cheats deprived the world of an authentic sporting contest. That's what they did. So, how about you go after them for that? How about we all get some compensation out of that, Felipe? Your lawyer will like that, because they'll get a cut of it for everybody. Task your lawyer with that if you lose this one, Felipe. They'll like that. Pat, go on. Somebody get, well, it's not David Quest. David Quest is Ecclestone's lawyer. Is he the good lawyer or the bad lawyer in this one? What's Massa's lawyer? Where's Massa's lawyer? Well, we've not come across their name yet. We'll find out their name. Well, let's all email Massa's lawyer and give him a link to this video. Anyway, let's come down here. His case rests on the interview. The interview says that Ecclestone knew it was done on purpose but took no action in an attempt to protect the sport and save it from huge scandal. But you've got control of the media, so you gave us all the story about Abu Dhabi when the FIA fixed that outcome for Max Verstappen. Yeah, but I'm trying on this channel to expose the true nature of it, but the algorithm won't allow the information to spread. The mind conditioning. We'll get there. Quest, said Ecclestone, who turned 95 on Tuesday, does not remember. Oh, poor old Bernie doesn't remember. Poor old Bernie. Yeah. The defendants, which is their Ecclestone, argue, it's the argument, the legal manipulation. Massa knew enough to sue in 2008 and 2009, meaning the case should be thrown out for being brought too late. Oh, there's a time limit for justice, everybody. That's the legal rules of manipulation. Yeah. After a certain point in time, you can get away with your crime. Who decided that? Which clever person decided, oh, if you haven't got us by then we'll make a rule that you can no longer get us. Who wants to manipulate it that way? Surely if you've committed a crime, and you get found out for it, and that can be evidenced against you, then you should get penalised and have to maybe compensate for that, or at least get punished. There'll be a consequence for it. Oh no, but there's a time limit for that. Who imposed the time limit? Oh, that's legal. Don't worry about that. One of the learned judges and the learned lawyers that make the laws. Funny that, isn't it? Why is that? Oh, you need to be a legal expert to work that out. However, Massa's lawyers say he did not know enough to bring a lawsuit until Ecclestone interview was published. Well, you see, Crashgate has been known as being Crashgate for a long period of time. And it was about 6 months after this event that Piquet Jr. was essentially fired by the Renault team, and that's when he then revealed that he had crashed on purpose and been instructed to crash on purpose by Briatore. And then Briatore was banned. Briatore threatened legal, okay? Briatore got his mercenary lawyers to start throwing the threats around. Oh, if you say that we've cheated, we're going to sue you. Fuck off. Sue me then. See what I mean? What are you going to do? This is what these bastards do. They use this as a tool of threats. We'll threaten you with our team of mercenary lawyers who will take our money to threaten you that if you reveal something about us that we don't want revealing, right? We're going to take you to court, and the court could make you have to pay us millions of pounds. Oh, that scares people, doesn't it? Yeah. So we use legal as a tool of oppression. Oh, this is the justice system, apparently. Don't you worry, little heads. This is His Majesty's courts and tribunals service, given to you by the Ministry of Justice. Tool of manipulation and oppression by those with wealth to scare and threaten people, operated by mercenary experts of the law, lawyers, the good lawyers, the bad lawyers. And then these lawyers go on to become the judges that make the decision. As what's right and what's wrong here? Which one of those have integrity and which they don't? I can evidence some that don't have integrity, that are criminally corrupt. This is the British judicial system. But don't you worry, little heads, about that. That's for a different channel. Anyway, Massa's lawyers didn't know enough to bring the lawsuit until the Ecclestone interview was published. Now, we've known since before 2023, we found out that Mosley and Ecclestone knew. So it is a little bit late. What's inspired you to do this? This it's Abu Dhabi, isn't it, Massa? It's this notion of 7 titles since the Max Verstappen thing has come along, and they deprived Lewis of breaking Schumacher's record. They're now trying to actually start deducting titles from Hamilton, aren't they? Okay, like I say, at the time, you didn't do anything. Why is that? You knew enough at the time that Alonso has got that title of Singapore and that his team had cheated. But also what you knew at the time was that even if they stripped the title of the Singapore Grand Prix from Alonso, you're still not going to get any points out of it. And actually, all that's going to happen is that Hamilton, who finished third in that race, is going to get promoted to second. So he'll get more points. So he'll have won that championship by more. But now what you're trying to do is go, actually, if we think about it this way, if we get them to cancel the race and strip that race out of there, taking all of those points away from Hamilton, then maybe I now get the title and I'll get some money out of it. Bit opportunist, isn't it? But that's not the way that sport works, okay? Because if somebody cheats, right, then you just disqualify the cheat. You don't then cancel the event. So you're just trying to get money after the event. What do you think you should get money for, Felipe? Because it was your team's fault, and it was you then as a driver that meant you didn't get any points in that race. You could have, were it not for that. But like I say, what you should do is go after Briatore for the fact that he cheated. And him cheating, right, you could argue, impacted your season that way. Impacted your season. Although that being said, when you pitted, the argument could be, well, what if you'd have gone into the pits under normal circumstances and Ferrari would have released you with the hose attached because the system would have malfunctioned then and released you before the refueling rig had detached, and that same thing would have happened to you regardless of the PK crash. Oh, now we're going into all hypotheticals, aren't we? Anyway, we'll carry on. In a witness statement to the court, Massa said his former Ferrari boss, Jean Todt, suspected immediately Piquet had crashed on purpose, but had not believed him at the time. So Jean Todt, who was then president of the FIA for a bit, he was president of the FIA at the time that Michael Massey fixed the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Yeah, so Jean Todt, what did you do about that, Jean Todt? Oh, you just got yourself out there, didn't you, Jean Todt? Distanced yourself, even though you were still the president of the FIA at the Abu Dhabi 2021. Anyway, so Jean Todt, what do you know, Jean Todt? These people involved in Formula One can look at the authenticity of these crashes. They can go, oh, yeah, you can look at the authenticity of Nicholas Latifi's crash as well. The fact that he'd gone round that turn 14 in fourth gear every time up until then, every other lap, for the previous 5 at least, in fourth gear. He choreographs this little fight with Mick Schumacher, goes off track with the dirty tyres on the tyre narrative, and then goes around there in third gear and dumps the throttle. Now, if you go round a corner in a lower gear and dump the throttle, do you think you might spin your back wheels up and the back end might step out on you? Oh, you wouldn't know that as a driver, would you? Don't worry about that. That's a conspiracy theory. That would be a Mercedes-powered driver conspiring something, wouldn't it? Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. The whole thing doesn't benefit the brands and the team owners, the billionaire team owners, by having more eyes on the show and the show being a massive spectacle and drawing in a larger audience. That doesn't benefit all it does. So we're not going to manufacture something that's going to cause worldwide headlines and global spectacle and excite the kiddies to attract a much larger audience. We're not going to manufacture it that way. Don't worry about that one. Don't worry about that. It's nothing to do with Toto Wolff. Michael, who was queued up ready to say that when it's ending. Wow. Don't worry about that. However, we didn't know enough. In a witness statement to the court, Massa said his former boss, we've gone through that, when the 2023 report emerged, it came as a massive shock. It wasn't really that much of a massive shock. We knew that. He added, Hamilton clinched the title after overtaking Toyota's Timo Glock for 5th place on the last lap of the season finale in Massa's home race, which he won in Brazil. 3 races after Singapore. Now, again, a world championship being clinched on the last lap of the last Grand Prix of the season. You couldn't make it up, could you? What we saw there was the rain start to fall in Brazil. And what we saw historically in Formula One is some drivers could handle wet conditions better than others, and some drivers could maintain their lap speed better than others. Some slowed right down and were sliding all over the place, and others seemed to have better mastery in lower grip conditions and were still able to lap relatively quick relative to everybody else, and therefore gain places when conditions became wet. And that is what appeared to be happening with Lewis Hamilton in that race. Now, that could have been a contrivance. Timo Glock could have been driving slower than he was capable of to manufacture this result. I don't know that. I've no idea. Only the people involved in the show will know what was being done there. Okay? But as fans of what we thought was a sport, we were led to believe that we were witnessing Lewis Hamilton's better handling of wet conditions than some of those drivers that he was able to pass. So that's what we thought we were witnessing at that point in time. But again, now that we've seen behind the curtain, we realise that a lot of this is bullshit. Anyway, what happened in Crashgate? Massa was leading the inaugural race in Singapore from pole position when so he was in pole position. He'd set the fastest qualifying time. Yeah, he was leading the race, and then when he got this mistake happened to him in the pit stop with his team releasing him before they'd release a refueling rig, and from being the fastest car leading the race, he struggles to overtake the cars in 15th position. Why is that then? You still can overtake around Singapore, particularly if you've got a faster car than other cars ahead of you, but you didn't. Why is that, Felipe? Well, because psychologically you'd imploded. Anyway, Piquet deliberately crashed at turn 17 on lap 14 to bring out the safety car. That benefited Alonso, who had made an earlier pit stop than his competitors. And I think, as I say, I think the way it worked out was because I think you're not allowed to pit immediately. And then at the time where you can pit, there'd been bunching of the field so that when those cars ahead of Alonso peeled off into the pits, he inherited their positions. All right. During the safety car period, Ferrari botched Massa's pit stop and he left the pits with the fuel hose attached to the car, accidentally knocking over a crew member. He rejoined the track towards the back of the field and finished 13th outside the points. Hamilton, who came third, increased his championship lead over Massa to 7 points. At the time, so again, Hamilton finished third, should be promoted to second. Rosberg finished second, should be promoted to the race win. That should be stripped from Alonso. At the time, Piquet described the shunt into the wall as a simple mistake. You see, these people lie. They cheat. They lie. And then when they lose their deal, they tell the truth. Funny what people do for money, isn't it? And when things are going for them, you know, when he's being paid to do something, he does it. When that deal is ended, now he tells the truth. Funny what people do for money. Lawyers make arguments for money, regardless of what justice is, don't they? What's justice here? Is justice stripping the title from Hamilton? Stripping the title from... What is justice here? What is justice? Well, justice here is quite simply disqualifying the cheat, which is Alonso, and making sure that those who cheated did get a lifetime ban from the sport, who are not lifetime banned from the sport. The perpetrators pay a consequence for that. Yeah? Now, how did that impact you, Felipe Massa? Because had your team not have done that, you'd have been back in that race, you'd have been contesting for that win, and you might have either won the race, or you might have at least finished in the points, and that might have been enough to win you the World Championship. That's how you try to work through the situation. You can't just reset it and go, oh, well, that happened, it shouldn't have happened, so we'll cancel the whole thing. Anyway, but again, it was a global sporting event. Okay, it was put in front of the world. Oh, you've just witnessed something, and Fernando Alonso has won this one. No, the whole world was defrauded by that. Briatore, you defrauded us all by presenting the world with that you cheated to achieve that. You should compensate the world for that. The entire global watching audience needs to be compensated by Flavio Briatore for the fact that Flavio Briatore defrauded the world by fixing a sporting event, defrauding each and every one of us. That's your case. Anyway, Alonso was cleared of wrongdoing, and the FIA found no evidence he was aware of the plan. Oh, I've missed a bit. Renault, however, when Renault dropped Piquet Jr. During the 2009 season, he revealed he'd been asked. So again, this is after the 2008 championship had finished, right? After the 2008 championship had finished and Hamilton had won it, 2009 season, Piquet Jr. gets dropped, and then he reveals that, oh, you've dropped me now. I'm going to reveal that you made me crash. You asked me to crash, and he did. And his actions led to an investigation. So that would have meant the FIA have to investigate and resulted in Renault team principal Flavio Briatore, who then initially made threats. Oh, legally, if you claim that I cheated, I'll threaten you with my legal team. Has he got links to the Sicilian mafia as well as Briatore? Who knows? Who knows? Don't you worry, little heads, about that. And Chief Technical Officer Pat Symonds being banned from F1 for several years. That was a lifetime ban. Who rescinded the lifetime ban? Pat Symonds goes on, a cheat goes on to work for the corrupt FIA. You couldn't make it up, could you? Alonso was cleared of wrongdoing because they found no evidence. Alonso didn't know that they were cheating for Alonso. No, but when they tell you, Alonso, you're starting in 15th, and we're going to start you on a light fuel load and pit you early. All right. Yeah, okay. Are they going to explain to you why they're doing that, Alonso? Just in case there's an early safety car in and around that time. This is what we're going to do, Fernando. Alonso was oblivious to the plan. Don't worry about that one. Briatore is now executive advisor at the Alpine team. Alpine, while Symonds is part of the Andretti Cadillac F1 program. Two proven cheats still contesting in the show. And that's it. That's it. So we need to know what MASSA'S legal team is. We'll get some updates over the next 2 days and what this judge is adjudicating on here. It's all bullshit. Okay? It's all bullshit. You've got corrupt cheats fixing a sporting contest, cheating in a sporting contest. The guy that was the beneficiary of that cheating is still the guy that's been handed that's keeping the title. They've not amended the results. That's how corrupt the FIA is. That's how corrupt they are. They've not disqualified the person that was the beneficiary of his team cheating for him to win that event. And that governing body has done nothing about it. In fact, they tried to cover it up. The governing body tried to cover it up. Even when it came out, they've not amended the result. Now, ultimately, the manner in which you deal with this is to disqualify the cheat and amend the result and reallocate the points. By doing that, it still doesn't affect the result in that World Championship, in as much that Massa does not become the world champion. All that happens is Lewis Hamilton gets more points. He gets the points for second position rather than third position, and actually he wins that title by a greater margin. Okay, what would be the problem here is, let's say, Hamilton only won that Brazilian Grand Prix, the title that year, by a point, did he not? Let's say he'd have lost it by a point and been deprived of 2 points by Crashgate. Then what's your case? What's the points allocation back then? Back then, I think the points. I'm going to pause this video. I'm going to find it now. Let's get this up. So the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix, formerly known as the whatever it is there, Singtel, was Formula One race held on the 28th of September 2008 at the newly built circuit. It was the 15th race of the championship, 800th Formula One race overall. Landmark event, 800th race, okay. So they'll be bragging about that. That would have been one of the highlights for selling the show. And the first ever night race held. It was also the first time Singapore had hosted a Formula One race. Lots of landmarks, 800th championship race overall. The first night race ever, first race in Singapore. And obviously Singapore is one of these global financial centres, everybody. Nothing to see here. No financial manipulation and fraud going on there in that facade of a monetary system that we live in. Don't worry about that. That's again for other people to talk about. 61 race was run by Alonso from 15th. Incredible. That's like a Max Verstappen performance, winning from 15th, isn't it? Anyway, teammate deliberately crashed. Nico Rosberg second in his Williams, and McLaren's Lewis Hamilton. Massa of Ferrari started in pole, finished out of the points, and let's have a look at the results down here. Background, it tells you all about it. You can have a look on there. I'm not going to go through that. Let's just get down to the results. So, qualifying race. Hamilton finished third and got 6 points. Felipe Massa finished 13 and got no points. Right? So, you know, it was 35 seconds off the lead. Well, like I say, what caused that? Your team. How long you were stationary in the pit lane. Well, it's not even so much that, because yes, you were stationary, but you then got released back onto track. Was the safety car period still ending? Did you have a chance to recatch the back of the pack? It really doesn't matter actually. But anyway, Hamilton finished third, got 6 points. Let's have a look at the championship finishing position. So, World Championship back then, 98 points Hamilton finished on, and Massa on 97. Now, Hamilton got 6 points at this event. Alonso should have been disqualified, elevating Rosberg to the win of that race for 10, and Hamilton should have got 8. Now, if we go to the Brazilian Grand Prix, where was Hamilton? Hamilton in Brazil finished 5th. Now, let's say, what would you get for finishing 5th? Finishing 5th, he got 4 points there, and that was enough. But let's be clear about this. If Hamilton had lost that championship, he won it by a point. He should have won it by 3. If he'd have lost that championship and finished 1 point behind Felipe Massa that year, with this result still being listed as it is, well, he should have 2 more points. And therefore that would have elevated him 1 point ahead of Massa that year, due to a fraud of the Renault team cheating for Alonso and the FIA not amending that result, not disqualifying the cheat. So Hamilton would have had a case, but Massa you don't. And the reason you don't have a case, Massa, is because your team made the error. Okay? But there's always going to be somebody that will take your money and make your argument for you. Okay? This will go into millions. Your legal arguers, they'll take millions of pounds off you. You know, I can just make this video for free. Okay, I'm just sitting here in my living room at a computer screen, and this video will earn me about £4. Woohoo! But your lawyer, Massa, how many millions are they going to charge you? Okay, but only the learned will be able to understand the law, everybody. There you go. It's not rocket science. If you need any advice in the future, Felipe, hit me up. Drop me a message. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Felipe Massa, and pass me the details of your lawyer. I mean, I'm not going to pay him anything. I'm just going to give him some suggestions. Maybe you could do a legal case against Briatore for the fact that Briatore has defrauded everybody by cheating at a global sporting event, and all the money that was paid by all of the spectators and the subscription fees for the TV rights for everybody that tuned in to watch it. We've all been deprived of authentic sporting contests for the fact that somebody cheated, and therefore he has to pay the cost for that. That might be. That might be. Or is there a legal device that absolves him? You know, indemnifies him from a consequence for that level of fraud. Is that another legal device? Let the legal experts argue for money amongst themselves for that, and then some sort of judge make a ruling that you won't understand based on a precedent made by another judge in another case in a different set of circumstances that aren't the same as this one. It's the intricacies of law, everybody. Don't you go worrying your little head. Yeah, legal. Anyway, that'll do for this video. I'm going to try it. Well, we might follow this story as the week goes on. Should be 2 more days of this shit. And we'll also have a look at, we'll just go back here. This one here. De Villiers starts legal action against the FIA. The FIA with their own courts that seemingly are enabling a dictatorship, preventing other candidates from going against Mohammed Ben Sulayem. And they've got their own legal courts over there. The International FIA Court. Yeah, that's the way the law works, everybody. Anyway, thank you all for your time. Cheers.